So first step in getting ready to texture is we're going to need to mix our mud. Depending on what type of mud you buy will determine how much water you need to add. This right here is a light mud, so we have to add a fair amount of water. What we're looking for here is kind of a soupy consistency, so when you pick your paddle up, it should drip off pretty easily. So if you're watching this and you're new to texturing, I'm going to try to give you a few tips to help you out. First thing you want to think about is the pattern you're trying to spray. There are a few things that are going to affect this. One being the size of the tip you use, 2, the amount of air pressure you use, and 3, how hard you're squeezing the trigger. Now there are a lot of different types of texture, but the most common are splatter, splatter drag, also known as knockdown, and orange peel. The texture that I'm currently spraying is a medium-sized splatter drag. I'm using the factory tip that came with the hopper when I bought it. Our mud is fairly thin, but not overly thin, and I'm doing about a half to full trigger pull. For an orange peel, you're going to want a lot of air pressure, really wet mud, a small tip, and if you don't have a small tip, then be real light on the trigger. Now, if you're wondering what the difference is between a splatter drag, or an orange peel, a splatter would just be, if you're spraying it on, is typically going to be kind of a medium-sized pattern. A splatter drag would be where we drag across the tips of it, and you're going to see that here in a minute. And then an orange peel is a fine mist at a high pressure, which is why we use the high pressure and a small tip. All right, so at this point, everything's sprayed, and now we're ready to do our drag or knockdown. So a few things to note when you're doing the drag or knockdown process. One is the direction in which you're dragging the texture. This will make a difference on the look of the texture. We'll get into that a little bit more here in a sec. The other really important one is when you drag the texture. So timing is everything when you're texturing. If the house is really hot, the texture is going to dry pretty fast, so you can get right in there. If you're dragging the texture when it's too dry, you're going to get a lot of burrs. If it's a little bit colder in the house and the texture is taking a little longer to dry and you drag it too soon, you're going to just really flatten it out. Also keep in mind on a job like this where you're tying new sheetrock into old painted surfaces, the texture on the new drywall is going to dry a little bit faster. So these walls had, I think, a satin or a semi-gloss paint on it. The texture that landed on the paint is going to dry a little bit slower. So I'd actually drug a lot of the texture on the new parts first, and then I kind of let the other texture set up a little bit longer before I started dragging it. All right, so last tip in regards to the direction in which you're dragging the texture. If you're trying to match some existing texture, you should be able to tell which direction it was drug. But the biggest thing when you're doing jobs like this, and this is all depending on how well the joints were floated out, but if there is a hump, you don't want to drag with the joint, you want to drag across it, because if there's that hump there and you're dragging with it, it's going to flatten it out really badly. All right, well, that's all I got for y'all today. I hope this video helped. If y'all had any questions or was anything that was confusing or that I didn't cover, leave some comments below. I'll be happy to answer you, and thanks again for watching.